let's get started here today. I'd like to introduce, we have one of our chef instructors here, Chef Renee. My name is Jason. I'm one of our admissions reps here at Escoffier in the baking and pastry program. We also have our director of admissions, Catherine, here, as well as our senior director of admissions, Randy, here with us as well today. So what we'll be doing is we'll be handing over to Chef Renee here in a moment. I'll be giving a little brief intro. She'll be showing you how to make some awesome peppermint chocolate, dark chocolate truffles here, which is probably the best winning combination ever out there. So without further ado, we have Chef Renee here. She has worked as a pastry chef and a pastry sous chef in a variety of some San Francisco Bay Area restaurants, as well as a research and development chef for places like Williams-Sonoma, Revolution Foods. She had graduated from Johnson Wales University and also had worked in different restaurants in Napa Valley, Oakland, San Francisco, taught pastry at the California Culinary Academy and the Cordon Bleu. But eventually she found her way back here to very fast to the food industry, education, and in December 2020. So she's especially passionate about the category of pastry known as, you want to help me with Chef Renee?
What I'm
Vienna,
special
Vienna,
mention?
Viennoiserie?
Viennoiserie, which
Viennoiserie.
is laminated doughs like croissants, danishes, puff pastry, things like that.
All right. Well, Chef Renee, let's see what you have in store for us today.
Great. All right. Well, hi everyone. My name is like Jason said, my name is Chef Renee, and I have been here for just almost exactly 2 years now. Next week is my anniversary. And so today, as we ramp up for holiday baking, I'm taking us away from the oven today and showing you a quick and pretty easy and very delicious little no oven treat, which is chocolate peppermint truffles. I love this recipe because it's very, very highly adaptable. If you love peppermint, but not everyone in your house does, you can do a different flavor. You can switch from peppermint extract to something like almond extract or orange or liqueur. Lots and lots of different things work for this. I just happen to really love peppermint. so off we go. I'm going to be switching off this camera and going over to my counter so that you can see my hands and a little bit less of, you'll always hear me gabbing, but you won't see my face doing it. So let me switch that over and we'll get going in a moment. There. There we go. So we got my setup here. And whenever you have a question, please do not be shy about asking. That's why we're here. So you have the recipe has been posted by Catherine. Thank you so much, Catherine. Hi, Catherine. The recipe is posted in the chat, so you can follow along if you like. This is a pretty straightforward one. This is one where we're going to make what's known as a chocolate ganache, which is merely a lovely chocolate plus cream and a little bit of butter to smooth it out. And because this is peppermint truffles we're making, we'll be doing this with a little bit of peppermint extract as well. And nothing super fancy here, guys. You can use a number of different kinds of chocolate, a number of different brands. I am using Callebaut, which is my favorite brand for most of the things that I do. However, if you are just running to the store and you want to grab some chocolate to do this sometime this weekend, maybe, go to the store and grab some baker's chocolate, or you can grab some Ghirardelli chocolate bars, or if you have a Trader Joe's, excuse me, if you have a Trader Joe's close to you, you can get their Trader Joe's brand Pound Plus bars, and those all work beautifully well. So don't feel that you have to go super fancy with your chocolate. Although if you want to, hey, I'm 100% here for that too. The same goes for the peppermint extract. I'm just using the regular McCormick brand. So, I have lots and lots of different extracts and flavorings, but I like this one because it's not too harsh. It's very easily found also. Now, one thing to know is that I am using peppermint extract, not peppermint oil. If you're somebody who likes making candies and you've got that teeny tiny little bottle, it's about this tiny, and it's super duper strong, well, don't use that one. It's a little too strong. But a regular old extract like this will do for sure. So where's the recipe? Desiree, you'll want to scroll up a bit, and it was only posted just a minute or so ago, so you'll be able to find it very quickly. Oh, and Catherine has it again because she's on it. For butter, I am using just regular unsalted butter here. Here's my extract, a little bit of chocolate, and a little bit of cream to round it out. We want to use make sure that we're using heavy cream or heavy whipping cream to do this, because we want a lot of fat in this. That's kind of what makes it so delicious. But also, it's what's going to keep that really smooth texture and keep an emulsion that won't break and look kind of weird. So a note about the dark chocolate. I chop up my chocolate really, really fine. It's hard to see, I know, but I chop up my chocolate to very, very small pieces. In fact, if I'm not using chocolate chips for something, I usually tell my students that I would have them chop their chocolate down to something comparable in size to chocolate chips. So that, and for a couple of reasons. First, it melts a lot faster and a lot easier, but it also smooths out as you are mixing it a lot easier as well. So the smaller the piece of chocolate, I tell this to everybody when they come through one of the classes that I teach, which is candy baking, confiserie. If you chop down your chocolate really well, takes only a few extra seconds, but it's worth the time and effort to do so, because you won't be chopping up, rather you won't be chasing after little bits and pieces of chocolate that have not quite yet melted. I'm just reheating my cream. Now, if you're following along with the recipe, the thing to do after you have all of your mise en place together, and if you're unsure about mise en place, that just means everything's put in its place, everything's ready to go. I'm just reheating my cream. I'm going to show you a little bit about the cream that I'm using. In the recipe, it says to bring your cream up to a scald. And what does a scald mean? Is it the same thing as a boil? No, it's not. A scald is just before you get up to a boil, where you are seeing steam in the pot, maybe a few little bubbles here and there, and even a little bit of, whoops, hello. This is what happens when you're looking in one direction and talking in another. Sorry about that, guys. So yeah, a scald just means that it's coming up to almost a boil, but not there yet. We don't want to bring it up to a boil because if you throw your hand into it, like I just did, you won't burn yourself quite as easily. But also, you can actually kind of break your emulsion by having your cream too hot. So we have it hot enough to melt, but not so hot that it kind of starts to degrade the quality of the chocolate that you're adding it to. So once it comes up to a scald, I'm just going to add it to my chocolate, all in one shot. And I'm going to dunk all of that chocolate under the surface there. If it's hanging out on top there, it's going to not melt quite as easily. So we want to make sure that we get it submerged underneath the surface so that that cream will do its work and melt all that chocolate. Now, you'll notice I haven't added my peppermint extract yet. I haven't added my butter yet. That's going to be in step number 2. So now, because we're on a time crunch, I don't want to keep you guys waiting for 3 to 5 minutes while this all melts. I'll do this quickly here. But you're going to wait for 3 to 5 minutes just to allow that cream to cool down a little bit, but also warm up the chocolate at the same time. Now, somebody's putting in a really interesting note here. Tracy says, Calabo seems to be almost too soft at room temperature, very thin coating. Is there a specific kind that you recommend? Yeah, absolutely. I'll type it in right now. The kind of Calabo that I use is 811. which is a bittersweet chocolate. Callebaut has all different kinds of to their brand, but 811 is kind of your all-purpose dark chocolate. Now this has not been 3 to 5 minutes, so you can see it's remaining just a little bit chunky. It's not quite melted all the way yet, but it's getting there. If I allow for it to stay a little while longer, it will melt really nicely, and then I'll be able to add my butter and my peppermint from there. And what you'll get is something that will look nice and smooth like this. It'll look almost exactly like just plain melted chocolate. Now, when you are done mixing your ganache, you're going to need to allow it to kind of chill down for a little while. The lighting is just so. That's a little bit on the dark side. Let me see if I can bring it up. You see a beautiful shine to it, nice and smooth. You're going to have to give it about 2 hours on the countertop before you try to shape it. Your chocolate should have a thickness to it. This doesn't happen right away. So sometimes people get really kind of frustrated when they're in their chocolates class and they're like, Chef, it's not thick enough yet. And I'm just, you gotta give it time. Working with chocolate is not a rush job, unfortunately. So if you need truffles for tomorrow, you need to start pretty soon in order to get them the right consistency. This has been resting for about 2.5 hours in a nice, in close to a very drafty window. Where it's a little colder in my area right now. So this is getting just by itself, it's getting a nice thickened consistency. You don't want to really mess around with it until it has the consistency of something close to peanut butter. And then you can start to scoop it. Even this is a little bit on the soft side though. So if you are kind of trying to rush a little bit, you can take this, put it into a piping bag, and pipe little balls out of it onto a sheet pan, and then allow that to chill further. Or you can give it a little bit more time, and you'll
Chef,
get something closer to this.
We have a couple questions here. Yeah, we just have a couple questions here. One we have says from Susan, either on the counter or in the fridge, as far as having it chilled and having it set here and cool down.
Well, I kept mine on the counter just because I wanted to keep a close eye on it while I was getting other work done today. So it was kind of stayed top of mind. But yeah, I have a nice drafty kitchen, so unless the oven is really going, it stays good and cold, and so this works for me. However, in the recipe, it does state that you should put this in the fridge for a couple of hours covered. So if you have a warmer kitchen than perhaps I do, then you can most definitely keep it in the fridge. It won't solidify completely for a little while. And then, yeah, go from there. Really, you just have to kind of take a temperature read of your own workspace and see how it's going. And from there, when it's ready, it's ready. And it can be a little bit different for everybody, but that's totally okay. So I hear you. There were a couple of questions. Is there another?
Yeah, we have another one here that's asking, can you also do flavors by infusing the cream versus like adding extracts or like orange or mint? Like,
oh, absolutely, absolutely. In fact, let me get on camera for a quick second. Hi. Okay, so
if you decide that you want to do something besides peppermint, say, or you want to infuse, infusing really only means that you are adding a flavor directly to the cream and allowing for it to kind of steep in the cream like you would steep tea in water. And we can do that with a lot of different things. Absolutely. If you're somebody who likes, say, a Mexican hot chocolate sort of flavor profile where there's cinnamon and a little bit of chili, then what I tell people to do is use a cinnamon stick, and instead of ground cinnamon, which can get a little kind of viscous in cream as it begins to kind of let all of those flavors go into the cream. I tell people to use a cinnamon stick as well instead, with maybe a little bit of chili flake in a sachet so that you can pull that out later and you don't have to, chew down on chili flake. You can do something like that where you're just allowing the cream to heat up as you would, and instead, but with the cinnamon stick and the chili flake in there. And then once it comes up to a scald, turning off the heat, covering it, and allowing it to sit for maybe a half an hour or so. And then you can take a little tiny taste from a tasting spoon, see if it's the right intensity of flavor for you. And from there, take out the sachet, reheat it back up to a scald, and add it to the chocolate just as I just did. You can do that with citrus peel. You can do that with fresh herbs. You can do that with tea. You can do it with botanicals like, say, lavender, or any number of things. If you don't have a little bit of cheesecloth to make a sachet, you can just strain it really well through a fine strainer, and that'll do the trick as well. So as long as you don't have, like little flower buds or something like that kind of you're chewing down on later on, yeah, you go ahead and steep, infuse instead. There's so many different things you can do. And with chocolate, I mean, almost everything goes with chocolate. So you can really let your imagination go. Any other questions so far?
Just looks like someone asking if you tried the lavender infused cream.
I love lavender infused cream. I've made many, many lavender ice creams and custards, and oh gosh, just all kinds. So yeah, it's I happen to like it quite a lot, but you have to be careful with things like lavender, with rose, with orange blossom water, things like that, because they're so floral, they're so fragrant, and they can really overpower the cream and thus the truffles later. So you want to be careful, because if you add too much or steep for too long, it'll end up tasting kind of like your grandma's soap dish, which is not as delicious. How do you make cream filling for chocolate truffles? Well, that's what I'm doing right now. Actually, this is what I'm doing right this minute. So let me get back to the counter and I'll show you just what I'm doing now. So we've got that fresher, softer, more peanut butter like texture. That's perfect for piping. If you want to pipe your truffles into a ball, that's how you would do it. I'm more of a scooper type of person. So now this is one that's been in the fridge for a little while, and you can see it's much thicker in comparison. Still smooth and delicious, but you can see this one it's a bit more solid. It's a bit more solid, so it's going to be easier to scoop. I prefer to scoop because I feel it's a little bit faster for me. So all I'll do is I'll use my handy scooper here. What I like about scooping also, I can see a little bit of, all right. What I like about scooping also is that you can be very exact with the amount that you are that you're scooping, so that you have a really consistent size and shape already waiting for you. I've got a couple already rolled out. Now I can just, if it releases.
Chef, looks like we have another question.
Today, spilling the cream, doing all kinds of stuff. All right, So from there, it's a little, not quite as spherical as I want. I can allow it to chill out on a nice cold sheet pan for a while, put it back into the fridge, and then shape it into something that's a little bit more solid, and thusly a little bit more malleable without being too sticky from here. Jason, I think you were going to say something. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. We have another question here. Someone's asking if we can press it into silicone molds.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is one of those things where there's so many silicone molds out there now. They're so easy to find, which it just blows my mind every time, because they used to be super super expensive, specialized stores, the whole 9 yards. Now you can find them in all kinds of places. Yeah, you can absolutely pipe and then smooth them into like teddy bear shapes or heart shapes or Christmas tree shapes, any of those things, and then allow them to fully set in those silicone molds, and throw them into the fridge for a little while, pop them out, and off you go. You can definitely do that.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now from there,
It looks like we have a follow-up to one of those. We have another participant here asking if is this the same ganache recipe used to fill a chocolate mold, or would they need to thin it out for filling a molded truffle?
oh, this one is this is known as a 50-50 ganache, which is 50% by weight, 50% cream, 50% chocolate, or even parts. And so, yeah, this is kind of your all-purpose. It's very, very pipeable. It will, as it comes up to room temperature, be nice and soft, biteable. It'll hold its shape, but it'll be soft. Does that make sense? Can 60-40 work? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. A 60-40 will give you a little bit firmer ganache truffle, which is absolutely wonderful. We can, if you're unsure what 60-40 is, 60-40 is going to be 60% chocolate, 40% cream. How do you make cream-filled truffles if you wanted a blueberry or strawberry flavor? Ooh, or an orange flavor, yum. First things first, I would switch from dark chocolate to, for this, because I would want a very pronounced, say, blueberry flavor, I would switch from a dark chocolate to a white chocolate based filling is what I'm trying to say. So that I can get the sweetness, utilize that sweetness and smoothness from the white chocolate, but then add that fruity texture as well. And then I might put that into a shell that's darker chocolate. So what that entails, it's a little bit more involved. This is so fun.
Cameras. Okay, so to make a molded truffle, you need to have a chocolate truffle mold, right? Makes sense. So a chocolate truffle mold is a little bit different, especially when it comes to softer fillings, fillings that really need to be encased well in something. You would want to switch from the silicone mold to a hard plastic mold with a bit more of a restaurant grade type of material. So we have these very strong plastic molds that we use in the chocolate, in a chocolatier's shop, for instance, where they are not bendy at all. They're very, very rigid, and we coat them in a very, very fine coating of cocoa butter, and that's going to help them release. Then we take our melted chocolate, tempered, and we fill it up, and then we empty it out. So we just have a nice shell coating in the inside of that mold. So once that's set, and that takes, this is like a few days. This one takes a little bit longer to do. Once that chocolate is set and perfectly inside its mold, and nice and rigid, then we add our filling, which could be a 60-40, could be a 50-50. Depends on what you're doing. It could be the blueberry, the strawberry, the orange. It could be pico tea. It could be anything. So we'll pipe with a pastry bag. We'll pipe the filling in, and we'll tap it a bit. We'll kind of, fiddle around with it until it settles and it flattens out a little bit. And we allow it to sit for a little while so that it just kind of forms a little bit of a barrier. And then we take more tempered chocolate and we pour, usually I used to always just do it with a big fat ladle. And then we'd hold that mold and pour the chocolate over it, the tempered chocolate, to form the bottom. And we tap it, just kind of fiddle around with it some more, get it perfectly coating every little truffle that's been filled. Scrape it clean so we've got a nice clean sharp edge across the bottom, and then we let it sit again. So usually that's like a 3-day process to really allow it to fully get the right texture. And once that's done, once that chocolate is completely set, once it's completely set, it's completely solidified, then we're able to flip them out, tap them out, and release them from that mold. And then we can serve them and sell them. So it's a little bit more of a process. I don't recommend for sale. I don't recommend using the silicone molds, like the really thin, very malleable ones that you see like at the craft stores. They're fantastic for so many things, but you'll find that they don't quite hold their shape. They're not quite strong enough. So you would want to go to that rigid plastic instead, and you'll get a much more professional look. Now, I'm not telling you not to try it. Always try it. Always try it. Test the boundaries with everything, but no, that won't be quite the same as going into your chocolate shop and buying the fancy little truffles there. So the cream base is actually chocolate. That's cool. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. This is the one that I'm making. Just chocolate ganache. That's it. The ones that you'll find in different chocolate shops could be ganache based. They could be fondant based, not fondant for coating cakes, but another kind of fondant. It could be, it's all cream based, and depends on which one you're trying to make, or caramel base for some of them. Absolutely. And then whatever you decide to add into that. So yeah, chocolatiers are fun people. They like to experiment and have fun. When making truffles, is it best to make them 3 to 7 days in advance? That's the nice thing about making truffles is once they're completed, you can, if you can take time with it, because chocolate's pretty easy that way. It's not as time sensitive as a lot of other ingredients are. You can keep the ganache in the fridge. You made it on Friday, you start shaping them on Sunday. That's all fine, as long as it's well sealed. As long as it's not, doesn't go through too many temperature changes, because the temperature changes where it kind of melts a little bit, rechills, melts again, rechills. We don't like that because it starts to change the texture. Don't put it next to the chili or any like garlic or anything, because that can start to kind of you don't want a garlic chocolate truffle. They don't work well. But it can be a couple 3-4 days process. They also freeze very nicely too. So there are a lot of different little things we can do in the making of this to make it a little bit more time friendly for us if we're very busy. And let's face it, this is like a really busy time of year. So so steps can be done different times. Garlic chocolate, doesn't work. I've tried many things in life, and I can tell you there's no way to make that one work. All right, so let's head back and I will show you a little bit more.
And while Chef's getting set up here, if you guys have any questions, we'll let Chef finish up her demonstration here. We can have a Q&A here at the end of demonstration. So I want to make sure that we guys get a chance to see it. I don't want to distract you, Chef, and we'll make sure we get everyone's questions asked or answered as well.
I'm so glad you said that, because I think everybody who knows me through the school knows that I will talk your ear off. I will talk your ear off. So well suited for teaching. All right, so you can use, if you don't have any dipping utensils, you can use a fork. I like this one because it's a little bit thinner, it's a little pointier, and you can just run your truffle underneath, take your chocolate. This is tempered chocolate, meaning that it's been heated to melting, cooled with more chocolate, and then reheated just slightly in order to get the right texture. And we're just going to drop it in, and then from there, I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to waggle this until almost all of that excess chocolate drips off the bottom. I'm going to slide it a little bit so that I don't get much of a foot. We don't like that little trail there. And then just allow it to set. The next one, pick it up. Waggle off as much of that extra as possible. Try that again. There we go. Much better. There we go. And continue from there. Now, chocolate, when tempered chocolate hits nice cold chocolate, it's going to start setting right away. So you can do one of two things. You can roll this around in some decorations, or if you're me, you can just throw a little bit of decoration right on top to indicate what flavor you're about to pop in your mouth, just like so. And that can be more peppermint. I love gold, so I like to put a little bit of gold on my truffles. And then from there, I'm just going to allow them to set fully so that the decoration will fully adhere. The shell will fully cool and harden. And then from there, I'll be able to take these off and present them on a plate from there.
And that is the end of my demo.
All right. Thank you very much, Chef. Wonderful job. It looks like we have some very festive holiday truffles to go around here. So we had a question here from the chat. Is someone's asking, why is chocolate really shiny and some is not? Go ahead. And you can answer that one.
There are many answers to that. It first depends on what kind of chocolate you're using. If you're using chocolate chips or, thanks, Wendy. Thank you, Beth. If you're using chocolate chips, they're a little dusty looking. They're not super shiny usually. That's because they're coated in a very thin coating that allows them to hold their shape when they're in the oven getting baked, like in cookies or brownies or something. They're going to just kind of stay put. If it's chopped chocolate like this, it is shinier. The shinier it is, the more in its regular block form, the shinier it is, the better in temper it is. And tempering really quick is the last bit of the chocolate making process, whether it's making truffles or if you're in the chocolate factory making those giant bars. What tempering is it's a step where we heat and cool and reheat our chocolate just so at very particular temperatures, depending on what kind of chocolate it is, in order to get a very particular look, texture, and meltability. So what we're doing is we're taking the natural vegetable fats that are in chocolate itself, and we're making them align on kind of a more microscopic level in order to get a really nice shine, because that's way more attractive than really dull and whatnot. And then a really what we call snap, which is literally the snapping sound that we hear when we break a chocolate bar. But it's also the texture, that kind of little crispy crunch that you get when you bite into a truffle and it just kind of shatters between your teeth. That's that texture that we're always looking to achieve. So why do chocolates have a shine to them? Why do they not? Depends. If it's chocolate chips, it's the coating. If it is say a chocolate bar that you buy somewhere, and it's kind of dull. If it looks like it's a little cloudy or even a little moldy looking, it means that it was some of those fats came out of temper and they melted and then cooled back down again, but in a more irregular way. Is it mold? No, it's fine, but it's just not as pretty. And I'll come up for air for now. Any other questions?
It looks like we just have one about from Miranda here, just asking, does it matter what kind of peppermint candy you use for this? Is there a softer kind of candy, or is it all the same?
No, you know what? Well, they're not all the same, but you know, I just crushed up a bunch of candy canes. Some are going to go on the tree, and some are going to go in my belly, in the form of truffles.
Well, there you have it.
All right, guys. Shall I let you go?
Well, I think we are all set for our questions here, and then we'll thank you very much, Chef, here for your wonderful demonstration here of our holiday truffles here.
Thank you,
And
everyone.
looks like we
I
have
hope
a
to
lot
see
of
everybody in the chat in my classroom very soon. Have a wonderful holiday season.
All right, thank you, Chef. All right, everyone. Well, thank you very much for having our watching our demonstration here today on how to do some chocolate truffles.